Hi, I'm Lillian. Welcome back to my channel Income Pages and to my 2023 Nanowrimo vlog. So as a quick introduction to the video before Nano starts on Wednesday, I wanted to quickly lay out my plans for this year. So last year I worked on a big fantasy story project with multiple different characters and storylines and kinds of magic and continents and adventures, and it was like a mix of all my favorite genres together. And even though I managed to achieve my goal, and I actually really surprised myself with how much work I was able to do towards this one project, and I was able to stay committed to it for the entire month without ever getting distracted or abandoning it. Because I was so focused on this one thing, it meant that I wasn't able to do any reading. I watched hardly any TV except for Rings of Power. I was even more antisocial than normal, and I was just so focused. I had like a one-track mind for the entire 30 days. There just wasn't space in my brain for anything else. But this year, I know that November is going to be incredibly busy and stressful at work, as actually work has been since May. So I know that if I try and commit myself like that again and give myself absolutely no leeway or flexibility at all, I'm just gonna fail and or be incredibly miserable for the entire month. So I'm going to be going back to my old NaNoWriMo method of writing whatever I want about whatever I want. And if that means that I write about 30 different stories in the 30 days, then so be it. And actually, since deciding that this was going to be my plan for this year, I've been feeling really excited for it. In terms of my word count goal, here is a lovely graphic showing how much I've written in previous years. I've never hit the 50,000 words, but the closest I came was in 2017. Last year I aimed for 20,000 and did achieve it, but this year I'm thinking I want to aim just a little bit higher, so I'm going to be aiming for 25,000 words. So now I have decided on my plans. The first thing I need to do before the month starts is set up my project on the NaNoWriMo website. So let's head to the website, let's go to projects, and then announce new projects. So for the title, I'm just gonna call it November 2023. I'm just gonna keep it really easy. And annoyingly, you can't change the word count goal if you're doing it in November for the official NaNoWriMo. So it's 50,000 here, but I'll know in my heart I'm actually aiming for 25,000. So for genres, I'm just going to put in everything because you can put in multiple genres. I'm going to do science fiction, I'm going to do fantasy, let's throw in some mystery. What else do I like doing? Adventure, I think that's a one here. Yeah, that seems like a pretty good mix. And then so project. And there it is. I have made like a little cover to go on it, which I will update now. There we go. And is it going to work? Do I have to refresh the page? There it is. Lovely. It's literally just a really simple cover. I'm really not the biggest fan of the NaNoWriMo website. I think it's quite bad at quite a lot of things, but it is really nice to see all of my previous projects there all together. And the final thing I've done to prepare for NaNoWriMo this year is to set up just a few NaNoWriMo spreads in my reading journal. So I'll show you those now. This page is where I will add on the albums and music I listen to a lot this month, or that I find particularly inspiring for my writing. This spread is going to be a line graph showing my progress throughout the month as I hopefully reach my 25,000 words. I'll fill it in at the end of the month. So for now, I've just put in placeholder labels with washi tape on the y-axis, so I can easily change those later if I need to. And finally, these pages will track my daily word counts. Again, I'm going to fill in the main bulk of it. At the end of the month, it's going to be a bar chart, but this word count table on the right, I will fill in as I go. So that's me, hopefully all set for the month. Let's see how this goes. For the first few days of Nano, I did all of my writing exclusively on my phone while sitting on the tube to work. Then in the evenings, if I remembered, I would copy across what I'd written to the Word document on my computer. And it worked pretty well. I liked having these specific windows of time to try and be creative before I got to work and had all of that chaos flood my brain. So my commutes were basically just writing sprints, which I tend to enjoy, so I was feeling pretty good. On day 2, I didn't actually reach my word count because I forgot I was going out for after work drinks with some colleagues, and that was really nice, and I was only planning on staying for an hour but ended up staying for 3, so I didn't get any writing done in the evening on my way home. While I was commuting and writing this week, I was obsessively listening over and over again to Now That We Don't Talk and Is It Over Now by Taylor Swift. I've unfortunately not really been a fan of most of her From the Vault tracks. Often I think after listening to them that there's a good reason they didn't make it onto the original albums, but these two are actually excellent songs and they made up about 90% of my writing playlist this week. And then I spent most of my Saturday doing absolutely nothing productive. Saturdays are my slob days, my chill days, my time for lying on the sofa and watching YouTube until my brain rots. Although towards the end I did manage to bring myself to do some actual writing. I spent days 1 to 3 writing science fiction, but on day 4 I felt this urge to switch, first to a fantasy project and then to a heist con artist kind of a story. And it was really fun and I kept hitting my word target. So at the end of week 1, my official word count is 5,053 words, which I'm very, very pleased with. And here's what that progress looks like on my little line graph in comparison to previous years. I might do a little bit more writing later, but honestly I doubt it and I haven't really planned for it. Today's bonfire night and I don't really like bonfire night and I'm worried the fireworks are going to keep me awake later. Although realistically yesterday was Saturday, so I'm hoping like all the major public firework displays will have been last night and tonight will hopefully be a bit quieter. Like I said, I've been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift, 2 of her new songs, Now That We Don't Talk and Is It Over Now, which are great, love them. The other 2 I've been coming back to over and over again are Here by Alessia Cara and then the Frank Sinatra song The World We Knew brackets Over and Over. And I found those 2 particularly useful for the sci-fi I was writing earlier this week. So far my write whatever I want plan has been working perfectly and I am guilt-free. In terms of the breakdown of like projects and genres I've just been dabbling in. It's been 60% sci-fi, 20% fantasy, 19% that like con artist story idea, and then just 1% other. This weekend has been lovely and sunny and bright, but last week was actually really wet and miserable, and it's that time of year where I'm going to and from work in the dark, which is very depressing. And because work's been so busy and we've actually been understaffed, it means that I haven't even had time to like go for my lunchtime walks. And last year I used these lunchtime walks as the majority of my daydreaming and brainstorming sessions to sort of think about and mull over my story as I was walking around. So I'm really hoping to, as much as I can, make those a priority for week 2. I tried my absolute best, but I still wasn't able to get a proper lunch break and therefore a proper lunchtime walk. So it was back to daydreaming and writing furiously in my notes app on my journeys to and from work. The only thing I consider Nanowrimo fuel is my daily morning hot chocolates. I don't like coffee and I only like tea when it has 2 sugars in it. And even then, sometimes it gives me a stomachache. But if I can have my morning hot chocolate, everything is fine. And I know this for a fact because on day 7, I actually wrote my most words per day so far this year. I've been noticing that even though it's more of a struggle to write on my commute into work, it really does help switch on my creativity for the day. And then in the evenings on my way home, it's so much easier for me to just get into it and write something like 600 words in just the 25 minutes sitting on the tube. And I think it's all because I really force myself to in the mornings. So on my evening commute, even though I'm tired and it's rush hour and my feet hurt, I'm finding it so much easier to just get into the zone and write because I already unclogged my head that morning. On day 9 of Nanowrimo, I actually got a proper lunchtime walk. And of course, I didn't think about any of my stories once, but I did still manage to write over 1,000 words that day. In terms of my NaNoWriMo playlist, I didn't have any new additions in week 2 until Friday morning, which is when I started listening to the Interstellar main theme over and over, and it was some great background music for daydreaming about my sci-fi story. And then in the evening, I rediscovered my love for Noah Kahan's album Stick Season. On Saturday, I didn't do very much during the day, and I also didn't do that much writing. I think I just needed a bit of a break. I'd really wanted to go to the Palestine March, but I didn't have anyone to go with, so I ended up not going. But in the description to this video, I'm going to put some links to petitions to sign, how you can contact your MP, and some charities to donate to. But in the evening on Saturday, I went to a friend's birthday party in a pub, which was really fun. And on the way back, my bus went over Tower Bridge, which is always very exciting, even for a lifelong Londoner. So today I wrote 1,448 words, which leaves my total number of words as of the end of week 2 at 12,573 words, which is actually 2,500 words ahead of schedule. So I'm very, very pleased with that. And here is my updated progress chart, and I'm loving how it's looking. So my writing goal for this week was to try and take more lunchtime walks and to brainstorm story ideas while on those walks. I managed to do that exactly once. So not a huge victory there, but I am still really sticking to writing every single day on my commute in and out of work, and it's really working for me. Like I said earlier, in the mornings, it's a bit more of a struggle to force myself to write, but I think it's actually a really fun way to like get my creative juices flowing in the mornings. And then by the time it's the evening and I'm coming back, I find that it's easier to tell what I'm in the mood to write, and then I tend to write more and faster. I probably look very insane sitting on the tube, like tapping away on my phone like this the entire journey, but I'm getting the words in and it's working. This week, I'm officially welcoming to the writing playlist The View Between Villages, the extended version by Noah Kahan, and also the Interstellar main theme by Hans Zimmer. And I'll give a special shout out just for today. I listened to the Spotify playlist Reading Fantasy Instrumental, which turned out to be great background writing music for yet another story idea. So in 12 days, I've actually written about 8 different story projects, and I've given them code names so that I can show you this pie chart and you can see which ones I've been writing about the most. So my number 1 project so far has been the one I'm calling Project Witch, which has actually been 25% of my total writing so far this month. And then just behind it at 22 and 21% respectively, we have Project J and Project Arcadia. If I had to pick a favorite right now in this moment, I would probably say Project Arcadia, but honestly that could all change next week. So I'm going to say that my goal for next week is once again to spend more of my lunchtimes going on walks and daydreaming about story ideas. And I'm even more optimistic that'll be possible this week because I think we're gonna actually not be understaffed. As in, we have technically been understaffed since May, as in that was the last time that there was a person employed in each position on the team and we were all at work working together. That hasn't happened since May, and I'm really, really hoping that will finally be the case again this week, which means I'll be able to take an hour-long lunch break and actually go for a proper walk. And I also want to set myself a goal, kind of just for the sake of it. These are all completely arbitrary goals. I'm going to say I want to add at least 3 songs to my NaNoWrimo writing playlist. And also, let's say I want to finish 1 book because it's been over a month since I last finished one, and I'm a little bit worried my inspiration source in my brain is going to dry up unless I get like some external stories put into my brain in some way. I took an actual proper lunchtime walk on day 13 as we finally broke our 169-day streak of being understaffed at work. So I was able to do some story daydreaming and try and find some more keepers for my writing playlist. And it was a really nice walk at first, but here is live footage of me realizing it's starting to rain on me. So I turned out a little more soggy than inspired by the end, and I finished my writing on my commute home as usual. And I actually broke my record from day 8 and wrote my most words yet. I wasn't able to write as much as I originally wanted to the next day because in the evening the tube I was on got suspended mid-journey, so I had to walk all the way back. But to be honest, I did get to do quite a lot of daydreaming on that walk, and I mean it was this time last year when we had an actual tube strike and a guy on the bus hit me in the face with his very heavy backpack, so this wasn't all that bad.
Then I was able to take a half day at work, so I was able to get home really early and do some writing. And it's also halfway through the month, and I'm way further than halfway to my word count goal. So I was feeling really great. Now, I am such a morning person that it's very, very, very unlikely I will have a sudden late night epiphany about a story or a sudden inspirational urge. But on day 16, I actually did have one. And I didn't write that much for it, but it was all sparked by one song, Stay for Something by CMAT. Not even the lyrics of the song, but just the vibe. And I gave myself a bit of a rest on Friday because in the evening I hosted a games night for some friends, which was so much fun. And after the excitement of games night, I retreated to my usual spot on the sofa for about 12 hours and wrote a decent amount, but very much in goblin mode. Although goblin sounds almost too energetic for what I was doing, really it was more troll under a bridge energy.
So I haven't actually written anything yet today because I spent this morning moving furniture around. So I don't know what my total word count is as of the end of week 3. But editing Lillian does, so she'll put that in here along with my progress graph, which to be honest is looking absolutely stunning at the moment. At this point in the month, I am making the best progress I have since 2016, which is honestly an outlier that I'm never gonna beat. So like, I'm feeling so pleased and so smug right now. My goal is 25,000 words this month, but if I keep this up, I am gonna hit 30K. My goals I set for myself this week were firstly to think about writing and then write as much as I could on like lunchtime walks. And I'm gonna say I have achieved this, not every day, but I did the best I could and I still did it several days. So like, I'm gonna count that as a win. I also wanted to finish reading a book, which I have not done. I haven't picked up a book in weeks. But my reason for this goal was because I didn't want my like inspiration and ideas for NaNoWrimo to run out. And I know that in order to output a story, or in my case, multiple stories, you need to have some kind of story input. So even though I haven't read anything, I have rewatched several Mission Impossible films, and I'm also now rewatching The Haunting of Hill House. And together, those two franchises are really scratching that itch for me. And also I wanted to find 3 new songs for my writing playlist, which I have done. So first off is Broussard's Lament by Sarah Jarosz. This is a song I've actually liked for years, maybe a decade. I can't remember when I first discovered her music. But I was just listening to a playlist of hers and this song came on and I was like, this is great. Something in it just hit really differently for me all of a sudden, and I listened to it over and over again for maybe an entire hour. The next new song is Dua Lipa's new song, Houdini, which again, it wasn't the first time I listened to it. I listened to it when it first came out and I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good song. And then again, it just came up on a playlist out of nowhere and I was like, I am so in the mood to listen to this right now. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to write to. And finally, we have a song which actually the very first time I listened to it, I think I paused it halfway through. I think I was like brushing my teeth or something in the evening and it came on a random playlist. I'd never heard of this artist before. And it came on and about 90 seconds into it, I was like, I need to find my phone, pause this song and look at what it is because I want to put this on repeat for another half an hour while I quickly type some stuff out. And this was like late at night. I was about to go to bed and it is Stay for Something by CMAT. And it was just kind of like the perfect storm. It really came out of nowhere. It's not even like the lyrics of the song were particularly inspirational or related to a story project or anything like that. I think it was just the vibe and it was perfect. Something in that song just worked magic on me for like 2 days straight. So basically, I'm really pleased with my progress and I love that I've got such a great little NaNoWrimo playlist like brewing and ready to go when I need it. So I'm gonna say my goal for next week is super simple and it is to just keep writing something every day and to write whichever story I am in the mood for. And if I'm ever not in the mood to write when I think I should be, I would like to kind of kindly and gently trick myself into becoming in the mood to write. Because unfortunately I can tell that it's getting harder to do and we're just at the point in the month where my well of enthusiasm for NaNoWrimo is starting to dry up. I can just feel it happening. It happens every year at some point. So I'm really hoping that now is when like my stubbornness will kick in and I can just get on with this.
The next Monday, I was still feeling impressed by how consistently well I was able to write and get the words almost every day. And this day was no exception, even though I was busy in the evening as I was in central London to meet a friend for dinner, which was so lovely. And I got to walk down Regent Street and feel all Christmassy and nice. The next day, I had a blood donation alongside my dad, and for my writing, I revisited an older story, which is a bit dark academia, I would say, and it was really fun to revisit. However, on day 22, even though I once again smashed my word count, I was starting to feel just slightly under the weather and was suspecting that a child at work had probably given me a bit of a cold. But the next day I got to go to the theatre and we saw Moulin Rouge. I love musicals, but unfortunately it turns out I don't always love jukebox musicals, but it was still a really fun time, and the performers and the staging and the costumes were all amazing, but I could not shake the little tickle at the back of my throat and how exhausted I was starting to feel. And on Friday, things went downhill and honestly continued to go downhill for the rest of the month. I was now officially actually ill, and I went home early from work because I felt so rubbish, so I was only able to write a little bit in the morning on the tube. That weekend, I just lay down all day. I forced out about 140 words on Saturday evening and watched the new Doctor Who episode, and that was it. And my Sunday looked very similar. I wasn't well enough to film a weekend update clip for this vlog, but I managed a little bit more writing, and I did actually hit my word count goal of 25,000 words, if not under the exact circumstances I had hoped. So the final week of Nano, I went back to work on the Monday and realised pretty quickly that I was still very ill and that I'd pushed myself too hard and too quickly. So unfortunately, I then spent 2 more days at home, feeling awful and coughing every 2 seconds. And somehow, don't ask me how, I managed to write almost 1,000 words that first day at home. I also rewatched an old childhood favourite film, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which I absolutely adore, and which gave me a few more ideas for a bit more writing at the very end of the month, which was great because at this point I was very rapidly losing any motivation to force myself to write. And on the final day of Nano, I was well enough to go back to work. However, I did have to cancel plans to see friends that evening because I knew it would just be too much. But I made it to the end of Nanowrimo, and I wrote 406 words to finish off the final day.
Then I had about 2 weeks of feeling well-ish, but it was the end of term crazies at my job. Then I got ill again with another cold I'm gonna blame on a child from work. Then it was Christmas, then it was New Year's, and that brings us to now, when honestly I am still feeling a little bit ill and exhausted. But I'm gonna say that despite getting ill twice, I'm gonna say that this year's NaNoWriMo was a big success for me because it just reminded me how much fun I can have with Nano when I'm doing it the way that I know I like to. Last year, it was still a success, definitely. It was the only time I've ever been able to stick with one project, write about the same thing every single day for 30 days in a row. And even though I felt very good about what I'd done and I felt very satisfied with myself at the end of it last year, I also could tell that I hadn't had as much fun as I was hoping to. So this year I really just wanted to lean into that, and so I allowed myself to switch projects whenever and wherever I wanted to, and I wrote so much. At one point I really thought I was going to be able to reach 30k by the end of the month. I didn't quite because I got ill, but like I really was on track for that, and I was writing much more than even I thought I would, and I just had so much fun doing it. It was an absolute triumph. And I did hit my word count goal of 25k in the end, actually with time to spare, as you can see from this chart, and even though you can also see where I was slowing down quite a lot towards the end. So some final statistics. I ended up writing a total of 27,533 words this year. The day I wrote the most on was day 13, when I wrote 15,016 words, and then on day 25 I wrote the least with only 146 words. I actually ended up writing about 15 different projects throughout the month, so you know, averaging 2 days working on one and then immediately switching to something else after 48 hours, which I was about to say isn't exactly what happened, but like honestly it was pretty close to that level of intrigue. I tended to have one project which was like my main interest and main focus for like weekdays, so like Monday to Friday something would kind of hold my interest for most of that time, and I would dabble in other ones, but I would have like one main project I would be thinking about and planning for, and then come the weekend I would, you know, decompress from work and try and relax, and my brain would be doing whatever it wanted to and would inevitably fix on another idea or come up with a brand new one, and then I would maybe like dabble in a few more over the weekend, and then come Monday another one would come to the forefront as my like main focus for the next set of weekdays. So shout out to the 4 projects I wrote the most for. The one I actually focused on the most was the one I'm calling Project Athena, which is like about spies and was attempting to be like a thrilling spy caper, and I wrote 5,504 words for that. The second biggest project I worked on was my Dark Academia project, which was a lot of fun, and I think was the oldest of these top projects that I worked on. Yeah, it was the one where I've had the idea for the longest, and I ended up writing 4,595 words on that. Then in third place in terms of word count, but you know, first place in my heart, because I think this was actually the favorite thing that I wrote about this month, was Project Arcadia, which is a story idea about royalty and a secret island and the ability to tell when someone is lying. And I wrote 3,678 words about that. And then finally was Project Witch, about a witch, as you could probably guess, which I wrote 3,559 words about. In terms of my NaNoWriMo playlist, I've actually mentioned all of the songs on it already in this vlog. Like, I didn't have any latecomers to the playlist once I got ill. So here is the playlist in its entirety. And I still think they were all very, very solid choices. And still, when I listen to them, remind me of some of the projects I was working on. And finally, in the, 6 weeks since NaNoWriMo has finished, I have filled in all of my reading journal spreads I made for it. So I will show you a quick flip through of those to finish off this vlog.